I'm 40 and will never be a father. What's the point?
So I'm smoking some meat today because it's Father's Day this weekend, and naturally that got me thinking because there's a big shift in the men's hemisphere out there where a lot of men are choosing not to get married and start families. I'm one of those men. I've talked about that on this channel before, and there's a lot of reasons why I am choosing not to get married and have kids, because throughout pretty much all of my life growing up until about, my late 20s and early 30s, I had pretty much assumed I was going to get married and start a family. That's just kind of the natural thing to do. And, we pass on our genes, and then we leave something behind because we're all here for a very finite amount of time. And it's good to leave your legacy behind because you can pass on your knowledge, you can pass on your genes, you can pass on everything that's good about you to the next generation, and they can do the same. So essentially you're leaving something bigger than yourself behind, because that allows you to continue your bloodline, number one, and number two, you could have an impact on the world, because legacy. If you pass on your genes and your kids go on to do something great, maybe they be, your kids or your grandkids or whoever becomes president or something one day. That's the kind of stuff that you think about when you have kids, because really it's just about creating. It's about creating something bigger than yourself and actually having purpose, having meaning in life. So that begs the question and brings me to the main point of this video, is that does not having kids mean that you don't have purpose? Does it mean that you don't have meaning in life? So, let's break that down. And this is something I've thought about a lot, because I've thought about the fact that I'm not continuing my bloodline, I'm not passing on my genes, I'm not leaving something behind. I'm not creating or leaving behind a legacy. But is that really true? Is it still possible to still leave behind a legacy and create something bigger than yourself?
Let me know in the comment section down below what you guys think about that. Is it still possible to leave a legacy behind you without having kids? I don't think it is if you're talking about bloodline. But if you're talking about maybe money or resources, then I guess. But if you agree, let me know in the comment section. Let's get back to it.
Without actually having kids, and these are the conclusions I've come to, I would say that yes, it is. And I'm just going to preface all this by saying that I think having kids is an amazing thing. If that's something you choose to do, it's awesome. I wouldn't be sitting here today if my parents had chosen not to have kids.
Yep.
And none of us would be here today if our parents had chosen that. So it's really a big decision if you're choosing to or to not have kids, and it shouldn't be taken lightly. But I commend anybody who wants to take that on. And if things weren't set up the way they are in society today, I would probably be having kids, because it is a very impactful and meaningful thing. But the reason I say that I think it's still possible to create a legacy for yourself and to pass something on that's bigger than yourself without having kids is because if you don't have kids, then you're going to have a lot more free time on your hands. And there's a pretty good chance you're going to have a lot more money too, because kids are a financial burden. That's just the way things are, especially in today's society, because everything's getting very expensive. So raising kids and having a family in general is going to be very, very expensive. So if you don't have kids, you have all that extra money and you have all that extra time. So
yeah, but what is money though? Like you when you die, you don't even take it with you. You leave it behind and other people use it. There's the house that you're living at right now in 100 years time. It's going to be taken over by somebody else, and you might even lose it. So
what do you do with that time? So what I've chosen to do with it is I've created a business, and that business mostly revolves around helping people. All right, I've been doing this now for over a year. I've been helping people in the health and wellness space. I've also created different branches off that business that are still health and wellness related and that create an impact in the world. It's all stuff that's geared around food and nutrition and creating a better version of ourselves. And the reason I left the workforce at the age of 39 is because I wanted to pursue these things. This is something that was eating at me every single day when I was working. I knew that by staying in a job, I was foregoing these dreams and this ambition I had. So I got out so that I can pursue these things, so that I can help people, because that's the season I'm in my life right now. But by me doing that, the amount of fulfillment I get from it, just from seeing the impacts that it's had on people's lives, There are people all around the world that I've helped. And when I say helped, I mean help people overcome chronic illness. And that's the big one, is mostly chronic illness, and achieve a better body composition and a better physical and mental state. And all these things that really can have a very profound impact on someone's life. I've had people in states, people I haven't even met, states that are all the way across the country that have invited me to their weddings. I've got people on the other side of the world that I've helped, and it's had such profound impacts on their lives that they're living a completely different lifestyle than what they were living before, a much healthier lifestyle, and they're so much happier and they feel so much better. And all these things, I feel like, to me, is something that's bigger than myself. I am creating an impact in the world. I'm making a dent in the world, and it might be a very, very small dent, which, even though I am helping people all over the place, it's still on a very, very small scale. But it's still something that's bigger than me. It's something I can be proud of, and it is something I can leave behind, because when I'm gone, hopefully these people I'm helping, they're going to pass this knowledge on to their kids, and their kids are going to benefit from that. So I think, to sum this up, I think just by passing on your knowledge and passing on your wisdom and the things that you've learned.
The only issue I have with that is your knowledge gets lost, because very often people don't give credit. So in a sense that, let's say for example, Jacob, teaches you, the guy that we're watching right now, first ever time, teaches you something, and then you learn and you pass it on. When you pass it on, the likelihood of you saying, I learned this from Jacob, is slim to none. But when that second person who received the knowledge from Jacob passes it on, he's not going to say this was from Jacob. He's not even going to remember who Jacob is. He could say it's from this, and then the third person who passes it on is from this. Before you know it, not even 3 people passed down the knowledge from Jacob, gone. This isn't from Jacob anymore. It's from, do you understand what I'm saying? So it's it's harder to track. Rather than kids, it's bloodline. We can run a DNA test for, 100,000 years and see this DNA strand or this DNA belongs to X, Y, and Z. You are the descendant of Prince Charles, because of the blood. The blood doesn't lie, you see. So I get what he's trying to say. Does this sound like a coping mechanism? I don't know. If you're younger than the age that he's at, now is the time to really deeply look into this, myself included. So if you're in your 30s, approaching 40s, you might want to consider, and if you feel like this guy really does regret what he's talking about, if you could just read and sense that, then you might want to get active.
Based on your life experience is something that is able to create a legacy. And when you have all this extra free time and all this extra money that enables you to do these things, to pursue your dreams, no matter what your dreams are, then you're able to do that. And I would say that if you have all that free time, you would probably actually be able to reach people on an even grander scale. So the potential of you creating an impact around the world that is going to be much larger than maybe just a child, I would say is possible. And I'm kind of realizing that for myself. Now, of course, a lot of this is speculation, because maybe if I had kids, I would still be able to do the things I'm doing. But at the same time, I don't think I would. Because number one, I probably wouldn't have been able to walk away from the workforce using the money I saved, because if I had a family, there's a pretty good chance I wouldn't be able to save that much money. And I would need to stay working so that I had a secure household, so that finances weren't a concern. Because the reason I'm in the position I'm in is largely because I've been single most of my life. And again, you have to consider the time, because if I was working and I had a family, that's a lot less time. And there's a pretty good chance that I would be a little bit more drained and wouldn't have the energy or the time to do these things. So when you have that freedom, it's almost like the sky's the limit. And that's another thing I've kind of realized, is that at this point, I'm my own limiting factor. I don't have anything else to worry about or consider. So I can basically come and go as I please, and I can do with my life whatever I want. So no matter what my dreams are, I can pursue them. I have the means to do that. There is really nothing holding me back. So those are the biggest realizations I've come to, and that's just kind of how I feel about it. I do feel like it is possible to still create a lasting legacy that's going to live beyond you, even if you don't have kids. And it might not be as profound, because you're not passing on your bloodline and your genes, and you know, in a sense, your bloodline kind of ends if you don't have kids and you don't have siblings, but it's still a legacy. And if you're passing on knowledge and wisdom based on your life experience, you're still leaving a piece of you behind. But another thing I've thought about and that I've really considered is the fact that, does any of this even matter?
Yes.
And I don't want to make this bleak or anything, but the fact of the matter is that when I'm gone and when you're gone and when we're all gone, who's going to really think about us? Because I can tell you that I remember my great-grandparents because they were still around when I was a young child, but my great-great-grandparents, I never met. I've seen one picture of them. There's one existing picture of my great-great-grandparents, and that's it. And if I had kids, they probably would have no idea who those people are. So that's the thing I think about, is that, you know, in a couple generations, we're all going to be forgotten. It doesn't matter how famous you are. It doesn't matter what kind of an impact you made on the world, unless it was very, very significant and it was written in history books and there's a reason for people to remember you, you're not going to be remembered. So does it even matter? Does leaving this legacy behind, whether it be a bloodline or the things you do in life, does it really matter? I would say that it only matters if the thing that you're leaving behind is going to leave a lasting positive imprint, a positive change on the world.
I believe if it didn't matter, we wouldn't be thinking or feeling that it does matter so much. Basically, if it didn't matter, he wouldn't be making this video. That's kind of how I feel. If it didn't matter, he wouldn't be explaining or saying, this video wouldn't exist if it didn't matter. So the fact that this video or videos like this exist, intrinsically, I feel like deep inside there's somewhere where you feel like it matters. You feel like, I'm dying and I leave this world, there's nothing of me that will carry on. You know, I've heard men often say once they have kids, they feel okay with death almost, because they feel like even if they die, they didn't truly die because they're leaving behind something here. But from the men who are on the deathbed and they're about to die, no kids, no nothing, they feel like they wasted their lives. I'm just keeping it honest because it's an honest conversation where you truly need to look deep inside within yourself and say, do I really want this? Yes or no? I'd much rather that you take time to think about it in this conversation rather than you allow it to surprise you at 40 and now you've got that feeling of anxiety or regret where, should I have had kids? Should I have, you see what I mean? I'd much rather you obsess about it and think about it now whilst you still have time. If you're in your 30s, before 40s, basically. But yeah, that's
when it would matter, because in that way,
carry on and
you're actually changing the world, and not just changing the world, but you're changing it for the better. So that's something that it would matter, because you're bettering the world, not just living in it, existing, passing on your genes, and then ceasing to exist. And I know you can't really forecast this, and you can't say for sure that your kids won't go on to do something like that, because that is very possible. But what if the knowledge and the information that you're passing on impacts the people that you're passing it on to enough for them to actually go out and create positive change in the world as well? So as you can see, this is kind of a rippling effect. It doesn't just begin and end with having children. It seems to me like there are numerous ways for a legacy to be impactful and for you to leave meaningful change behind, whether you have kids or not. But I think the important distinction here, and the main takeaway from this, is that we do all kind of need something to work towards. We need to have something to create and something to leave behind. We need to have some sort of legacy that is going to live beyond us. Otherwise, what's the point? Because like I said before, if we just exist in this world and we don't leave any kind of lasting change behind, or we don't leave any kind of positive impact on the world, then we're just going to exist and we're going to be forgotten. And then at that point, what's the point in life? What is our actual purpose of being here? And if you think about the problem people are having these days with not being able to find a purpose and not finding meaning in life and just kind of floating around aimlessly, not knowing which direction to go, I think a lot of that is because people are choosing not to have children, but they're also staying stuck in a job that they probably don't necessarily enjoy, living someone else's dream, or building and supporting someone else's dream, should I say, and they never get to realize their own. So at that point, they're kind of lost. They have no real sense of direction. They're not creating, which I think we as humans were made to create. I think that's the reason we're here. And if you don't have that, you don't have that thing that you're actively working towards, you don't have anything that you're going to leave behind, everything becomes kind of pointless. And that's probably a big reason why we have a mental health crisis in this country, is because people are stuck in that situation. They're not having kids, and they're also not replacing that legacy, that void that is now there, with anything else. And I could see how that would be a very easy way to just not really have anything to live for, to just not have a direction, and to just float around wondering why we're here. And that's kind of a bad situation that we shouldn't get ourselves in. So for me, the conclusions I've come to is that there's no right or wrong way to live your life. You don't necessarily have.
I look, I get it, okay? I completely get and understand what he's saying and explaining. But you just need to truly establish within yourself, just like I've been saying throughout this video, what you want. That way you won't face the feeling of regret, because there's no greater feeling than the feeling of regret. Feeling like, I should have done this, but I didn't. I should have done X, Y, and Z, but I didn't. Now it's too late. Oof, that feeling of regret. Wow, you don't want it. You do not want it. So that's what I'm saying. Decide, pick what you truly want and go for it. And just believe that's going to work out, because it will do. Because you can make it work. It's all down to you. You see? But if not, hey, look, you're going to be regretting. All right? I want to check out the comment section very, very quickly. 99% of people will be forgotten in 3 generations. I agree with this, but it doesn't mean you take action. It's like saying you live in a government where they can take care of the homeless. Does that mean you need to become homeless because my government can take care of the homeless? It doesn't mean you just go out and do it. You see what I mean? So yes, people will be forgotten, but once you've got the life, why don't you build and create something from it? We don't need our hands in order for us to be able to walk through life and society. Does that mean I'm going to go and chop it off because I technically don't need my hands to still be a functioning human? Stupidity. Do you understand? So whilst you've got the opportunity, make something of it. But look, like, share, because this is a very important video. Keep rewatching this and think and decide what you want to do in your life, okay? But yeah, God bless you. I'll catch you.